We live in a world where silence feels strange, where the first thing we touch every morning isn't life. It's a screen. A world that promised connection but somehow left us more alone than ever. Notifications dictate our moods, algorithms shape our desires, and for many of us, peace has become a forgotten luxury. But what if one of the greatest innovators of our time, the man who gave us electric cars, reusable rockets, and dreams of Mars, decided to step back from it all? We live in an era where technology has become an extension of our identity. The smartphone, once a tool for convenience, has evolved into a necessity we can't imagine living without. It wakes us up, tracks our sleep, navigates our routes, reminds us what to eat, and even tells us when to breathe. The world spins around digital connectivity, and we're caught in its orbit, often without realizing it. Every buzz, every ping, every notification is designed to command attention, to make us look, scroll, and stay. It's a subtle yet powerful force that's reshaping how we think, how we work, and how we connect with each other. The irony is that while these devices were created to make life easier, they've slowly taken control of it. We no longer check our phones. We obey them. The moment of silence between messages feels like discomfort. The idea of leaving home without our phones feels like leaving behind a part of ourselves. This obsession with being constantly connected has changed the rhythm of our lives. It's no longer about being present in the moment. It's about capturing it, posting it, sharing it, and seeking validation for it. We scroll through feeds that never end, chasing dopamine hits that give us temporary satisfaction but lasting emptiness. The digital world promises us connection but often delivers comparison, distraction, and noise. The more we connect through screens, the less we connect with our own thoughts. We've traded solitude for stimulation and focus for fragmentation. Every second we spend checking for updates is a second taken from reflection, creativity, and depth. It's within this hyper-connected chaos that the opening of this topic becomes so striking. When someone as influential as Elon Musk, who helped shape the digital age itself, chooses to step away from the smartphone, it forces us to confront a truth we often avoid. If a man surrounded by technology decides to disconnect, what does that say about us, the ones enslaved by it? The opening of this speech isn't just about technology's grip. It's about the quiet warning it carries. The more power we give to our devices, the less power we hold over our minds. The hook isn't just meant to shock. It's meant to awaken. Because deep down, every one of us knows how much of our life has been reduced to pixels, how many dreams have been paused for the sake of a screen, and how urgently we need to remember that life exists beyond the glow of our devices. The paradox of being hyperconnected yet deeply disconnected defines our generation. We live in a time when communication has never been easier, yet genuine connection has never been harder to find. Every platform promises to bring us closer, but somehow we feel further apart. We send messages instantly, share every detail of our lives, and scroll through thousands of updates. But beneath that digital closeness lies a growing emotional distance. The conversations that once happened face-to-face are now reduced to emojis and short replies. The laughter that used to echo in rooms is now represented by pixels on a screen. We are surrounded by people virtually, yet we often feel profoundly alone. The digital crowd gives the illusion of companionship, but it lacks the warmth, depth, and authenticity of true human interaction. The more we connect through technology, the more disconnected we become from the present moment. We attend dinners where everyone's eyes are fixed downward, not in reflection, but on their screens. We walk through life documenting it instead of living it. We've built a world where silence feels uncomfortable, where boredom feels like failure, and where the need to stay updated outweighs the need to be still. We crave validation from strangers while neglecting the relationships that truly matter. This paradox has become the quiet crisis of modern humanity, a constant chase for connection that leaves us emptier the more we pursue it. In this landscape of endless connectivity, Elon Musk's decision not to use a smartphone becomes more than a personal choice. It becomes a statement. It's a reflection of how far we've drifted from the essence of communication and creativity. The smartphone, meant to connect us, has instead trapped us in cycles of distraction and superficial engagement. We know more about others' lives but less about our own purpose. We see the world through screens but rarely through our own eyes. We hear constant noise but have forgotten the sound of our own thoughts. Musk's choice forces us to question whether real progress comes from being constantly plugged in, or from stepping away long enough to think clearly. This paradox isn't just a technological issue, it's a human one. It's the tension between convenience and consciousness, between staying connected to the world and staying connected to ourselves. The irony of the digital age is that we built tools to unite humanity, and in doing so, we may have built walls that separate us from the very essence of being human. Elon Musk's shocking decision to abandon the smartphone is not just a personal lifestyle choice. It's a profound statement that challenges the foundation of how modern society functions. Here is a man who has built his life around technology, a pioneer of electric vehicles, space exploration, and artificial intelligence. Yet he chooses to step away from the very device that defines the digital age. It almost feels contradictory, but that contradiction is precisely what makes it powerful. When someone at the center of innovation decides to disconnect, it sends a ripple through our collective consciousness. It forces us to ask, what does he know that we've chosen to ignore? His decision isn't a rejection of technology itself. It's a call for balance, for awareness, for reclaiming control over tools that have begun to control us. Musk understands that innovation thrives on focus, not on constant distraction, and perhaps that realization came from witnessing the silent cost of hyperconnectivity firsthand. In a world where every vibration demands attention, where our thoughts are constantly interrupted by alerts, and our creativity is fractured by the next scroll, the smartphone has become both a gift and a trap. Promises productivity but delivers fragmentation. It keeps us informed but rarely lets us think deeply. Musk, whose work requires both imagination and intensity, knows that mental clarity is the real currency of innovation. The human mind cannot build the future if it's forever tethered to the noise of the present. By giving up his smartphone, he's making a statement about reclaiming that clarity. He's showing that sometimes stepping back from constant connectivity is not regression. It's evolution. It's choosing depth over speed, purpose over distraction. There's also a symbolic element to this decision. It reminds us that even those who build the machines of progress are aware of their limits. It's an act of rebellion against a culture that glorifies busyness and worships convenience. In many ways, it's a wake-up call to humanity. We've become so accustomed to dependency that the idea of letting go seems radical. Yet in that act lies liberation, the kind of mental freedom that allows for original thought, creative risk, and genuine insight. Musk's choice disrupts the narrative that being constantly reachable equals being productive. It proves that true innovation isn't about being always online, but about being deeply connected to one's vision, free from the constant noise that clouds it. Questioning our own dependence on devices is perhaps one of the most uncomfortable yet necessary reflections of our time. We've reached a point where our relationship with technology is no longer about utility, it's about identity. The moment our phones are out of sight, a subtle panic rises within us, as if we've lost a part of ourselves. We check them instinctively, not because we have something urgent to do, but because they've conditioned us to crave attention, stimulation, and validation. It's a habit that has become invisible, a routine so deeply ingrained that we rarely stop to ask why. We justify it as staying informed, staying connected, staying productive. But beneath those justifications lies a truth we often avoid. We've become dependent on the very tools that were meant to empower us. Every few minutes, we glance at our screens, searching for something. Perhaps a message, a like, or a small reminder that we exist in someone else's world. This behavior isn't accidental. It's engineered. The apps we use are designed to exploit our psychology, to keep us scrolling, clicking, and craving more. Each notification triggers a rush of dopamine, giving us a fleeting sense of satisfaction before the emptiness returns, pushing us to seek another hit. Over time, this cycle rewires our attention, shortens our focus span, and subtly reshapes how we perceive value and time. The question we must ask ourselves is not whether we can live without our devices, but whether we can truly live with them in the state they've placed us in. When Elon Musk steps away from his smartphone, it's not about rejecting technology, it's about reclaiming control over his mind. His decision becomes a mirror reflecting our own dependency back at us. We might admire his innovation, but the real challenge lies in understanding the discipline behind that innovation, the ability to disconnect, to think without interruption, to create without constant consumption. If someone whose life revolves around progress can question his relationship with devices, shouldn't we all? This act of self-questioning is where awareness begins. It's where we start to realize how much time, energy, and emotional presence we've surrendered to screens that never stop demanding more of us. Questioning our dependence doesn't mean abandoning technology. It means redefining our relationship with it. It means asking whether our devices serve us or whether we serve them. It means remembering that attention is the most valuable currency we have, and every time we give it away mindlessly, we trade pieces of our potential for moments of distraction. The cost of constant notifications extends far beyond the simple annoyance of a buzzing phone. It's the slow erosion of focus, creativity, and emotional balance. Each ping that pulls us away from our thoughts fractures the flow of our mind. What once could have been a deep, uninterrupted idea now becomes a collection of half-finished sentences and forgotten inspirations. We underestimate how much these small interruptions steal from us. Every time we switch our attention, our brain has to refocus, and that refocusing takes time. Over the course of a day, it adds up to hours of lost productivity, hours of thinking that could have birthed new ideas, solved complex problems, or simply allowed us to breathe. In a world where we're told that speed equals success, we've become addicted to immediacy. But that addiction is quietly draining our ability to think deeply and create meaningfully. Notifications don't just interrupt our tasks. They interrupt our state of being. They train our minds to live in anticipation, always waiting for the next sound, the next update, the next digital tap on the shoulder. Over time, that constant anticipation breeds anxiety. We feel restless when the screen is silent, uneasy when the phone is face down. Our sense of calm is replaced by a dependence on stimulation. The irony is that the more we respond to every alert, the more we lose the very focus those tools were supposed to enhance. Creativity, by its nature, requires stillness, a kind of mental space where ideas can breathe, connect, and grow. When that space is constantly invaded by the next vibration or pop-up, our imagination suffocates. Elon Musk's awareness of this cost is not coincidental. His work demands vision and clarity, qualities that cannot coexist with constant distraction. By stepping away from his smartphone, he isn't just avoiding interruptions. He's protecting his mental bandwidth, guarding the fertile ground where innovation begins. It's a recognition that focus is a finite resource, one that must be defended deliberately. For most of us, the flood of notifications has become so normal that silence feels unnatural, but it's in silence where the mind regenerates. The more we allow ourselves to be pulled by notifications, the less control we have over our own attention. We become reactive instead of intentional, busy instead of productive. The true cost of constant connectivity is not just in lost time. It's in lost presence, lost peace, and the gradual disappearance of our ability to simply think without interruption. Innovation is not born from noise but from stillness, from moments of solitude where the mind is free to wander without interruption. In the age of constant connection, solitude has become almost extinct. We've mistaken activity for progress and stimulation for creativity, forgetting that the greatest ideas often emerge in silence. Every breakthrough, every invention, every vision that reshaped the world began with a thought that was given space to grow. When we are constantly surrounded by information, updates, and opinions, our mind doesn't have the room to breathe. It becomes cluttered, reactive, and overwhelmed. True creativity requires the ability to be alone with one's thoughts, to listen to the quiet hum of imagination before the world's noise drowns it out. Elon Musk's choice to distance himself from the smartphone speaks directly to this truth. In a world addicted to endless scrolling, he chooses stillness. He understands that innovation doesn't come from consuming more, it comes from creating more. And creation demands focus. It demands presence. The mind that's constantly responding to notifications cannot enter the deep state of thought required to build something extraordinary. The world celebrates multitasking, but what it often forgets is that the human brain thrives on depth, not division. When we split our attention, we weaken our capacity to connect ideas, And when we weaken that capacity, we limit our potential to innovate. Solitude has always been the birthplace of genius. When distractions fade, the mind begins to explore the uncharted corners of its own potential. It starts asking questions that the noise of the world would never allow. It starts connecting dots that were once invisible. Musk's understanding of this principle isn't mystical, it's practical. In his line of work, clarity is oxygen. To build rockets, cars, and artificial intelligence requires not only intelligence but an environment where thought can thrive unbothered. By removing the smartphone from his life, he isn't rejecting progress. He's returning to the state of mental freedom that progress demands. We often underestimate the power of being unreachable. In silence, our thoughts begin to speak. In solitude, our creativity begins to shape itself into vision. But we've conditioned ourselves to fear quiet moments, mistaking them for loneliness, when in truth they are where our deepest strength is born. The modern world keeps telling us to stay connected, but perhaps real connection, the kind that drives discovery, comes when we finally allow ourselves to disconnect from the noise and reconnect with our own mind. The courage to disconnect in a world addicted to attention is one of the rarest forms of strength today. We live in an era where being constantly seen has become synonymous with being relevant, where silence feels like invisibility, and invisibility feels like failure. Every scroll, post, and story is part of an endless chase for validation. The digital world rewards us for staying plugged in, for keeping the stream of content alive, and for participating in the constant noise of opinions, trends, and updates. Yet beneath that surface of connection lies exhaustion. The human mind was never built to process so much information, nor to compete for attention every minute of the day. It takes courage to step back, to say no to the endless pull of engagement, and to choose peace over presence in the feed. Elon Musk's decision to step away from his smartphone represents that rare kind of courage. It's not a rejection of technology, but a quiet rebellion against dependency. In a world where success is often measured by visibility, choosing to be unreachable is an act of power. It's saying that your time, your energy, and your focus are sacred. It's refusing to let algorithms dictate your thoughts or define your worth. Disconnecting requires strength because it goes against everything society has normalized. The moment you step away from the constant stream of information, you begin to realize how much noise you've mistaken for knowledge, how much distraction you've mistaken for importance. The courage to disconnect isn't about isolation. It's about reclaiming ownership of your attention. Attention is the new currency, and every app, every platform is designed to take it from you. But the moment you take it back, you begin to rediscover something far more valuable: clarity. That clarity is what allows you to see beyond the surface, to think originally, to feel deeply again. Musk understands that to innovate, one must protect the sanctity of thought. Constant connectivity blurs that boundary. It fills the mind with so much external input that there's no room left for intuition or vision. To disconnect is to declare that your mind is not for rent, that your purpose is not defined by popularity. In a culture obsessed with being online, true courage lies in walking away without fear of being forgotten. It's choosing substance over spectacle, creation over consumption, stillness over stimulation. It's understanding that sometimes the loudest statement a person can make is found in the silence of their own focus, and the strength it takes to stay there while the world keeps shouting for attention. Ending the introduction with a suspenseful emotional pull is what transforms a speech from something heard into something felt. It's the point where curiosity meets conviction, where the listener isn't just informed but deeply moved to reflect. A powerful ending doesn't simply summarize, it provokes. It leaves the audience in a state of quiet thought, asking themselves questions they can't easily dismiss. In the context of Elon Musk's choice to abandon the smartphone, the closing moment should not sound like an ending, but like the beginning of an awakening. It's the part that shifts the listener's attention inward, forcing them to confront their own dependence, their own distractions, their own lost focus in a world built to keep them scrolling. The goal is not to glorify his decision but to use it as a mirror, to make the audience feel the weight of what they've surrendered to their screens and the possibilities they could reclaim if they chose differently. The emotional suspense comes from contrast, The idea that someone who has everything the modern world celebrates has chosen to walk away from the very thing we all think we need. That contradiction sparks intrigue. It makes people wonder, what would he gain by losing connection? And, more importantly, what have we lost by never trying? It's in this quiet moment of questioning that the real impact settles in. A good closing doesn't shout the answer. It lingers in the air, allowing the silence to speak. It draws power from restraint, from letting the audience sit in their discomfort long enough to feel it. Because real change doesn't come from being told, it comes from realizing. The emotional pull deepens when the ending touches something universal. The longing for peace, clarity, and purpose that lives inside every listener. When the speech closes by painting a vivid picture of what life could be without the constant noise, when it suggests that maybe the next great idea, the next breakthrough, the next version of ourselves lies on the other side of silence, it stirs something primal within us. The best endings don't demand applause. They create stillness, the kind that feels like realization. Elon Musk's story serves as a metaphor for this transformation. The closing moment should make the listener not just admire him but question themselves. It should end with that haunting thought that perhaps the future doesn't belong to those who stay connected, but to those who have the courage to disconnect long enough to think differently, to see clearly, and to start again.